Let's do it.
Welcome, everyone, to your weekly dose, where we condense all the media and we read everything so you don't have to, because that's how people like to digest their media. As always, I have a floating guest, and when I'm bored and I want to have an easy show, I go through my diary. I see a little bit like Dimmer at Gold Coast, who's recently retired and who I can coerce out of retirement. And I find my mate Leg Dog, how's retirement treating you?
Mate, it's fantastic. Retirement's great. Wasn't going to do any off-season content. Wasn't going to do any sort of trade content. This is the third, I think, show I've done with you. And I'm locked into like 6 podcasts in the off-season. So, you know, it's beautiful. Literally nothing has changed.
Well, what I thought is, I just thought I'd do basically a Damien Hardwick, and I'd get you to publicly announce your retirement so no one else tries to get you on the show, and just go behind everyone's back and get you here. And it's worked out pretty well, to be honest. I've had to give no trade collateral. I've had to fight no one. Tell you what, I don't blame Dimmer. It's good.
No, it's a good system. I mean, just lie and it'll be fine. Lie, even though every single person knows it's a lie. Let the media finally go, all right, maybe it wasn't a lie, and actually everyone who reported on that early in the year, you're a dickhead. Wait 1 week and go, oops.
Well, everyone's floating in and everyone's happy to see you. Look, Shane's saying stick around. I won't let Leg Dog retire. I mean, Leg Dog's been in and out of hospital, and I've forced him out of bed to do shows. Like honestly, I'm worse than Terry in the way that I work these people. But I thought let's start off with something simple. Obviously, this is a real big talking point at the moment. Jack Ginnivan, he made the comment on Brodie Grundy's Instagram, see you in 14 days. They've lost. Hinkley's fired back, and probably the highlight of all this is Sam Mitchell saying, get on your plane now, is evidently aggressive words. But Chat and Leg Dog, like, your initial take on this Ginny Hinkley fallout.
Mate, I think it's ridiculous that we're discussing it. I think the furor, the fake anger, the fake upset about it all is crazy. We spent all year, and I hate that Kane Corns is the take I'm agreeing with most, but we spent all year building up this Hock football, social media superstars. They're the young upstarts. I'll see you in 7 days, or I'll see you in 2 weeks, whatever it is. Like that, we loved it. I was on board. I absolutely loved it all year. But when you put it out there, it's going to come back. And it's come back on the field of battle. After the field of battle, Ken Hinkley's made a moderate kind of comment. It's not even really a joke. He's just said something from 20 meters away. Everyone's upset because it wasn't the right moment because Luke Bruce was getting cheered off for his 300th game. Like, it's just, who fucking cares? Like, it's ridiculous, Bob. You put it out there. In my opinion, in life, you can say and do whatever you want. But if you say and do something, there will be the opportunity for other people to react and respond to you. And that's what's happened. And I think it's play on. I think it's funny. And I don't care if Ken Hinkley's 50 and Jack Ginnivan's 21. And of all the people to be up in arms about it, old Sam Mitchell himself going on about it is just, I just can't cop that. I just can't.
Says it as well, like Dermy talking about moral high ground. I heard Gary Lyon do it as well. I mean, don't mind a guy that's banged his mate's wife behind his mate's back talking about moral high ground. But
Jordan Lewis getting upset. He spent his whole career punching people behind play and breaking jaws. Like, focus on keep your house clean before you go out and talk to other people. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you know what as well? Palazzo makes a great point, and this is my point here. Like, we want more characters, don't we? It's the thing that we keep pushing, don't we, in the AFL, that we want the players to be a little bit more out there, be a bit more approachable, be a bit more working class, show a little bit. And like, you know, when people were saying it's disrespectful, see you in 40 days, like, all I saw out of it, and I'm glad that Ollie Wines came out and said it. I was like, this is that kind of banter that motivates a team, and you're going to see what Port are made of. And the only thing I'll say is this about Ken Hinckley. I didn't mind Ken Hinckley's response, and I don't think it's a 20k fine. I think that's ridiculous.
Crazy.
But I didn't agree with Sam Mitchell's words of 50-year-old man 20. I thought that was weird, but I would have rather see. I think on the field, I'd rather the players be like this, and I'd kind of like a coach to maybe pot shot him, in the press conference. Like my approach, I would have thought it would have been funnier. Ken Hinckley said nothing, did the press conference, and then just subtly dropped the barb and gone, I hope we see Jack Ginnivan in the crowd. He said he was going to go and catch up with Grundy. Hopefully Grundy can find him tickets when we play his mob next week. Like just a subtle barb and like show you're a little bit more mature. But I did find Mitchell's reaction, like I had to watch it back because I'm not a lip reader, but it didn't seem there was any malice in what he was saying. Like there was no offensiveness. And then to see Sicily am I old? I just want to see people talk less and chin each other.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what most AFL fans want. For me, like, it's exactly that. I think it's very old media. We've got a lot of old people in the AFL who haven't probably been exposed to the internet, like in the sense that Jack Ginnivan has grown up with the internet. The people who are commentating on this still don't really understand how to not tweet porn, off their profile when they're trying to Google search. So I think there's still a barrier generation gap there. Like you want characters in the game. I want players shit talking. I don't care if Ken Hinckley yelled at him on the field. It would have been funnier if he did it in the press conference. Ken Hinckley doesn't even have social media. I don't even know he'd know how to turn on a computer. So he's probably not smart enough to pre-plan that ahead, Pom. But as we age and as the internet generation takes over the coaching ranks of AFL, I hope we see more banter like this. I'd love to see some elaborate YouTube videos created by coaches pot-shotting players. Like, it'd be great.
Yeah, I've got to say, the only thing I'll say on this and my final thought on it is I actually lost a bit of respect for Sam Mitchell, to be honest. Like, I was hoping... I always think there should be a little bit of respect. I know this sounds weird, but I think there should be a little bit of mutual respect between the players and between the coaches in the terms of like, this is our industry. When one of us fucks up, we kind of pull rank. I would have liked Mitchell to defend Sicily and say like, this is what we stand for as a club. And if I was watching it, I was like, if I was in Sam Mitchell's shoes, I would have probably said, look, I probably wouldn't have done what Hinckley did, but I do respect the fact he's sticking up for his team, as did Sicily for us, and that's what drives our standards. I did find Sicily, the 4 quarters he played, that was probably the most fight he showed, to be fair.
No, he took that big mark in the 4th quarter, and evidently he's going to be the full forward next year, according to Matthew Lloyd. So he's got a lot going on, does James Sicily. I mean, he's a good player, but he's a sook, and he always has been. And that's why Jed Lamb, when Carlton were at their lowest, was able to beat him one-on-one while he was the hottest upcoming defender in the comp. So, he's very easy to get under the skin of, Mr. Sicily. Mr. Van Gogh himself.
Mate, it was quite good. And I'll be honest, I enjoyed it. I thought we need to see a bit more of it. So players, coaches, like... Because you see, if you ever watch the English Premier League, coaches are always at each other, dropping barbs. You had the famous Wenger quote about that he was a voyeur because he looks at what everyone else's work does. And I agree with Tim. I thought the best bit was seeing Ginny get shouted at by Hinckley and Ginny's pissing himself, which I actually thought made Hinckley look more of a knobhead. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he wasn't intimidated. He was laughing, going, yeah, I probably deserve the whack back. Like, well done, Ken, mate. Enjoy your win. I agree with Blues fans. If Voss got stuck into a player, I'd be like, yes, kill him.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I love it. I'm supportive. More of it for me. I think Ginny, I mean, Ginny's currently being used by Racing Victoria and the clubs in all their advertising for the Spring Carnival because he's been to the races so many times. They've got a legion of photos of him. Like, it's just fun. He's a fun dude. He had fun. He wasn't intimidated. That whole angle that there was intimidation involved is literally clutching at straws.
You know what? This is a great call by Chills. They banned the GWS coach from the venue this weekend. There was no fine. Where I would agree with you. And do you think this is a bigger problem in society? We're now treating verbals worse than physicality. Like when they are two separate. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm 100 years old, but like with my kids, I am of the rule that if someone says something to them, kind of deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Like stiff upper lip, rise above it.
When
if
the thing you're saying to them is you're not flying next week.
Do you know what I mean? If someone punches you, though, I'm more likely to tell my kids to punch them back. But if it's just words, I'm like, say something back. Do you know what I mean? Or get over it, son. So no, I agree with you. It's a bizarre case, but talking about bizarre cases, we go over to St Kilda. And obviously St Kilda are a team at the minute that are heavily linked with everyone. And me and Letdog talked about them last time we did this show. But they need a midfielder. I think we all agree with that. They need a POD. Jackson McRae's agents come out and said that he wants to play football. And obviously Beveridge has played Jackson McRae over the last 2 years, anywhere from the forward pocket to a halfback in the middle of the year. So, like, Bevo, fair play, he made finals, but I don't think he knows. Geelong are one of the teams, but obviously with their anticipated signing of Bailey Smith, you'd imagine they haven't really got the collateral. St Kilda, though, this is an interesting proposition. So, St Kilda need a midfielder. What are we thinking about, though? And what are you thinking about, Letdog? Is this a time that if you're St Kilda, you're probably going to get the battle comp, which is going to be somewhere between 8 and 9. It has been confirmed that it's going to be a top tier comp pick. So stay tuned for that. So that'll probably be below 10 after their pick 7. They've got pick 7. What is it? Is it Zach Merritt? Is it Jackson McRae? Or is it draft a young one? Because they have got the hard inside midfielders there, haven't they?
Yeah. Where to start? You've given me so many things to talk about. I guess the first thing I'll just quickly touch on is I'm not getting upset this year about compensation picks, Pom, because I did some research during the week and it broke me. You might have seen my tweet, Pom, but I'll ask you just in case. Do you know when the last time the same amount of picks were taken in the first round of the draft as there were teams in the competition? Do you know the last time that happened?
I did see your tweet, but it was like 2016, wasn't it? It was a long time ago.
It was 2002. 2002 was the last time that the first round of the draft had the same amount of picks as teams in the comp. So 2015 had 19 picks with 18 teams. 2009 had 17 picks with 16 teams. 2008, 16 picks. And then 2 picks that weren't round 1, but they were before round 2. So it's just been a mess literally since 2003. So when I read that, I've decided I'm not getting upset about it anymore. So I don't want to talk about the compensation.
You've broken in AFL. Well done.
What should they do? Now, I don't, despite the fact they beat Carlton in the last round of the year. I don't, and I have not rated their list for quite some time. They got some nice pieces, but I think overall I don't think they actually know where they are in terms of competing versus building a team. The idea that they might go for Zach Merritt to me is crazy because you're giving up probably pick 7, 8 and a future first, or pick 7, 8 and Mateus Philippou, or you're essentially blowing up any chance you have to continue to develop to get Merritt in. So I'm going to park that for 1 second. I would simply, Pop, if I was their list manager, I'd go best available in the draft, or maybe you've got some other options that they can do with those draft picks. And I would bring in Jack McRae because I don't think he's going to cost you anything at the trade table. Maybe a 3rd rounder, maybe a 4th rounder because he's got no value. He's been the sub all year. And the reason I would bring him in is because other than Jack McRae, They got Sinclair who rolls through the mid. They're midfielders who played this year. They had like Windhager who kind of played mid 15 games. Brad Crouch didn't play. Paddy Dow floated in and out. Zach Jones played a couple of games. Hunter Clark, he plays 50% of time in 10 games. They actually don't have a second midfielder who's just going to play every week. So from that perspective, I'd bring in Jack McRae for a third rounder, and I'd still go for the best mid available in the draft.
Just on Zach Merritt. I mean, they're talking about with Jack McRae, like spot on. He's going to be a pick in the 40s, right? Evidently, dogs aren't going to stand in his way. They're just going to let him go for some congressional pick. So, I mean, Jack McRae, we know he's only 30, which he'll be 31 by about round 4 next year. So, still got a lot of football in him. And let's be honest, he hasn't played in the midfield for 2 years. So, he's pretty fresh.
Yes.
Zach Merritt, for me, is an interesting one because two parts here to you and chat. Are St Kilda ahead of Essendon, right? And 2, if Zach Merritt was to leave for St Kilda, would that be a real big fuck you to Essendon? And I would say that would cause a lot of problems for Essendon's list, wouldn't it? That would be an ugly loss, wasn't it?
It would be. It'd be a terrible, terrible sign for Essendon if he left from a culture perspective, from he's the captain perspective, all that sort of stuff. What you get in return for him, I actually think, and if you take out the leadership and the prestige and the captaincy and all the question marks that would come with it, on a straight value deal, you'd actually probably end up long-term better off by not having him. If you got, 2 top 10 picks and a player or whatever it was. But in terms of who's ahead, I really struggle. I really have St Kilda and Essendon this year, and I was kind of wrong. I had them sort of around that. I don't know. I think I had them between 14th and 16th. I don't know where they finished on the ladder. I think Essendon was a little bit higher than that. But I would probably have St Kilda slightly ahead because they got guys like Wanganeen Malera, Sinclair's still there, Steele's there. They're losing battle, but then they've got Darcy Wilson, who's one of my favorite players in the last draft last year, Rowan Marshall. They've got some young quality guys, and then there's a pretty big gap between that and like your Jack Steeles and stuff. Whereas Essendon, not. And maybe I'm just biased and maybe I just hate their team, but there's not a lot that excites me on Essendon's list. They got a lot of weird hybrid players that haven't quite come on. And I don't think they've been great recruiters over the journey. I think any team that brings in Jade Gresham, Todd Goldstein, and Ben Mackay and pays them significantly to do so just is not a serious football club. Again, maybe I'm being biased.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like for me, when I look at it, it always seems to be. I'd love to know where people have this idea of landing big fishes, like because St Kilda in the last couple of days, and great comment here from Josh. Like they've started to be linked with Brayshaw. There's an article about if Chad Warner doesn't get to Fremantle, which is expected, he's going to go look to WA if he does move. St Kilda are going to offer him a war chest, as that word comes out all the time. But
yeah,
like for me, let's look at their picks at the moment. St Kilda have got pick 7. Let's say they get pick 8. All right, you've got 43 there. Let's just say that they want more than 43. Essendon have got 8 and 28. Probably quite easy for St Kilda to make some workaround and make 43 better. If it's going to be 36, not hard to get 36. So let's say they get McRae in. 8 and 7 to me would be on the phone to West Coast Eagles. We'll give you 7 and 8 for 3. gives you 2 bites of a very good top 10. We get best available midfielder. And, like, in my opinion, to rebuild a list, I think St Kilda are in the perfect position that they've got mature bodies. So you can protect any player. You've got Max King there at the moment. He's a seasoned player. So you can bring in another forward if you want. Callum Wilkie, he's taking over that back line. He's the main man. So if you get a young backman, you've got the protection. You've got the chance, if you're St Kilda, to take them chances of looking after your kids and make your own stars. I really think what all the sides are missing when you're trying to build a list is the good sides make stars. And in the last 10 years, the only time we've seen a side win a flag is Geelong, who traded free firsts for 2 seconds and brought Jeremy Cameron in after failing 3 different drafts to find a key forward to help Hawkins. So the model's there. If you want to win flags, build your talent. And this draft, I find chaotic. Anyone wants to trade out in it. Like, I'm telling you now, there'll be a side in the top 5 picks will be an idiot and trade out for something worse than 2 top 10s. And we'll do this draft again. And we'll be like, that's why they're fucking shit. Because this draft is full of role players, full of spread, and you're a clown. And someone's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, someone will do the classic 11 and what is it? You pick 5 for 11 and 12 or whatever it is. There's always one of those that seems to pop up. I think someone Ben Leonard had a great point here. I think Essendon are full of C graders, Saints are full of A graders and D graders. It's actually probably how I feel. I think Saints do have a few A graders, and then they've got some bubbling young talent, whereas I think all of Essendon's talent, and maybe just because some of the young players haven't been exposed, I think it's all pretty mid sort of players, other than what Zach Merritt. Nick Martin's pretty good, but yeah, I'm just a bit meh. In terms of Pom, if I'm St Kilda, I'm getting McRae in. The only caveat with him is I think he's still got a few years left. It's a very expensive deal in terms of salary, but given the war chest that St Kilda have, it might be. It doesn't matter if they spend it on him because I don't think they're attracting anyone better. So bring him in, let him be serviceable, and then go to the draft would be my advice. And I think St Kilda are in a better. The more I've looked at this list, I do think St Kilda are in a better position. Even with Josh Battle coming out, I do still think they have the talent on the park. They may need to try and find your Sam Frost level of player to come in and play in defence. It'll probably be Caleb Marchbank, actually.
Yeah, you know what? Right, when I look at this draft, and I think Ben made a good call, I think St Kilda's list. I've always liked St Kilda's list, and I think it's going to be a real test of sauce because I think he's right. They've got the D graders that can protect any project that you feed through. They've got the good players. It's now finding them B grade players, which this draft I feel is a plenty. And it's going to be interesting because everyone's saying Richmond should trade out. Like, I'm of the other school. I think North, and Lou makes a great point. I think the only team that's got a pick in the top 5 that doesn't need it is the Kangaroos. I think they drafted so well last year that I would be trying to get 2 for 2 top 10 picks or a top 10 pick and 2 10 to 25s and saying, let's really spread our bets here, finish off the list and finalize. It's going to be fascinating, I think, this draft. But I'm with you guys and girls. I think Saints, if they get McRae in, best available mid at whatever their first pick is, try and find a Josh Battle type replacement. And you mentioned a key forward, and someone's asked about Carlton. Sam Frost, you mentioned him, right? Right, you mentioned him. But my next little part of call is looking at Hawthorn. You've got a guy there, Sam Frost, who's played a lot of games. And I had a lot of Hawthorn fans on this show last year saying, we're going to be shit. with Sam Frost. We're going to be really, really, really shit with him. And I was saying he's the perfect guy to be a foil. He'll just stand there and take the piss and just do what he's got to do. Someone like Sam Frost, Jai Sarong, they're going to be really, really, really pushed out. Really, really pushed out. Are you surprised there hasn't been mention of this? That anyone, because this would be someone that if I was North, you mentioned Frost, I'd be looking at Jai Sarong. I'd be looking at that guy and saying, what do you want? What do you want? You're going to be losing all your picks. We're happy to give you 22, trade down to 30 with Hawthorn and call it quits. Like, is this something that you think clubs will be looking at? Because they've got a depth of key defenders at the moment.
Yeah, so my attitude has sort of always been, I've over the years done these off-season targeting things, and one of the players I always look at are either the younger developing key defender that hasn't been exposed properly yet, or the old bloke who can fill a role but is currently playing in the twos, because I think they're always available and you can get them in for cheap and they can fill a role like a key defender. In the right structure, you can have Sam Frost be an effective player when he was maligned at Melbourne, and as everyone who thought he was a spud when he came to Hawthorn, and then over the years they've gone, oh, actually, it's nice having someone who can just do the job. Sometimes just having someone who can just do the job is good. And I don't know. It looks like he's not in the AFL out of contract list anymore. But I was talking to you the other day about James Balassi or James Belaise, whatever his name is, from Adelaide, which is just a guy that I think is like, he's a key defender that can get the job done. I don't know if he's available because he's no longer on the out of contract list, but it's that caliber of player I think you can find.
They announced a 2-year deal.
There you go.
On the day I did the Adelaide.
Oh, really?
Video. Quite nice of them because a few Adelaide guys have come in, not checked the timestamp, and think I've got hairy balls, not crystal. But
I've got one more name that, and I specify by saying he's not good, but a guy that I think can fit in this mold and get a job done is a guy like Aaron Francis. He's not good, but he's 27. He can't get into the Sydney team. He's out of contract. It'd be his third team, do or die to keep his career alive. He's someone that you could bring in and go, hey, you're going to play 15 games. All you have to do, stand in the goal square on the tall bloke.
I agree. And it could be interesting here what they do. Stewson saying, you see, I think this is really funny where people have looked at this draft because doing the draft a lot, I think the top 5 are clear standouts. I think where people are getting confused, there probably isn't a runaway pick 1. There should be a runaway pick 1, but unfortunately there isn't because he's been injured most of the year. So I think it's pick your poison. But I think if I was a Richmond, I definitely want 2 bites of this because I can cover quite a lot. And I think if you want a midfielder, if I was Saints, I'd want to get into that Smiley area because Draper, Smiley are so much better than the midfielders 10 to 15. So I definitely want to be getting in there because they're more guaranteed. So it's going to be interesting, this. But I like that Francis call. I think, like, we live in a generation where, let's just use Zach Merritt, for example. If you're a team that's 6th to 15th, I think the uneducated eye would say get Brayshaw, get Merritt. But your brain, if you look at history and list management, drafting pick 3, 5, 6, getting a midfielder there is more guaranteed to make you a flag than going out there. Because if you think about it, the last big midfield trade we had was Lockie Neal for a flag pushing side. It's done fuck all because it's been knocked out by a side that's built its midfield. Do you know what I mean? It's been beaten by Sydney, right? And then it got beaten again by sides that have built their midfields. They haven't bought them in.
Collingwood last year too.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So like, I don't get this We don't want to be, everyone always says, we don't want to be soccer, but you want to be soccer because you want all the shiny things where I feel like the good sides, they either wait for like a Jai Sarong. Geelong would buy Jai Sarong. They'd be like, fuck making a key defender. You guys have put 2 years in. You've played him a few games. Thanks.
I mean, you and I obviously talk pretty much every day about this sort of stuff. But if I was a list manager, I don't think I would ever trade a first-round pick. I would never trade 2 first-round picks for a player. I'd probably never trade 1 first-round pick. I think I would always look to fill holes. I think you could always find a way to fill the role. Don't think about the name. Think about the stat or the plan or the stats you're trying to execute. It's the classic Moneyball thing. The only way I think I would trade firsts, 1 or multiple firsts, outside of, pick swapping and getting more picks in and around that draft, moving from 5 to 10 or whatever, would be like if I had a really good list, we're about to, and in the last round of the season, my ruckman does his ACL and I know I don't have him for next year. That's probably the only time I'm trading my picks is like, okay, shit, I need a ruckman. All right. Other than that, I think we it's one of those, I think we undervalue picks now for whatever reason. I think we undervalue them. For a while there, we overvalued them, but now I think we think they're worthless when in actual fact, you can fill holes. You can find players around the edges. If you do that, if you look at the numbers and you do it properly, you can.
I'm with you. And like we said it earlier, Blues fans, I don't know if you were here earlier, but like I said, that was 3 firsts for 2 2 seconds coming back. Tried for 2 drafts to find a key forward. They couldn't get that working. And to Lek Dog's point, key position players, ruckman, I'm in future first because that's a 3-5 year payoff in the draft. But midfielders, it's like 2 years for a good one. Like 2 years for a good one.
Players, max. Small forwards, all those outside of those key pillar roles. I don't see why you'd move picks on, like valuable picks on, because I think you can find replacement level players for those roles.
Yeah, and like Kai says, like you look at it, it's the tall ones, and you know what? Those funny, like Stewson mentioned the academy at Sydney. The underratedness from the Victorians on how many academy bids. I think there's been 1 academy bid from anyone out east of there.
Yeah,
like they really underrate them. I remember talking. I'm not going to reveal the club, but it was the Chad Warner draft. And I remember them saying to me, he's shit. Like, he's not that good. He's probably 50th talent in the country. Fucking, he's still employed by an AFL club as well. Not mine, though, thankfully. But like you say, it's fascinating when you look at it. It's fascinating when you look at it. And yeah, I'm with you, Lek. I think draft your good talent, get your spine, and then to just fill it up. Like I think you actually will find, and Lecter, you'll back me up. There's a higher percentage of success with your Elijah deals, Nick Newman's, them 3rd, 4th rounders. You've put 3 years of development in. He's not getting games, but we can utilize him. Then there is going out and buying. Like Colin asked, do I think Chera? Go back and watch mine and Lek Dog's videos. I was against pick 6 for Adam Chera because I love Chesney. He's here now. I'm stuck with him. But my argument is for the 3rd, 4th midfielder, fucking draft one.
Yep. I mean, look, it's obviously the draft is not a surefire way, but the numbers speak for themselves. The average amount of games a player plays when they're drafted, pick number 1, it's like 161 games, and then if you go down to a 4th rounder, which is what's 4th round, about pick 60, between 50 and 60 thereabouts. The average games played is like between 10 and 30. So if you could turn pick 30 into Nick Newman or pick 40 into Nick Newman and turn pick 1 and have a throw at the stumps, and you're probably going to get a player who's going to be around for a long time. To me, it's just always a no-brainer that you should just take your early picks to the draft, build from there, particularly if you're targeting midfielders. And then to the point in the comments, the Jeremy Cameron one is a great example where they tried and tried and tried, and they said, fuck it, we're just going to buy this guy. And then, oh, look, we want a flag. Yeah, and the Chera thing, we don't need to talk about the Chera thing. We've done about 700 hours on Adam Chera.
But Carl asks, and that leads us to our next topic, to trade or not to trade. For those wondering what pick 6 was, it was the 2021 draft. And pick 6 with pushbacks would have been Jaya Miss, Josh Gibcus, Neil Erasmus, Nassine Wanganeen, Milwera, Ben Hobbs. It was about that area. So
is that the Josh Rochelle draft as well?
Yeah.
He's the one we wanted.
But yeah, so Carl Meany asked a good question. So to trade or not to trade, this has been a question I've been inundated with, but we'll use Jack Martin as an example. Carlton delisted him this week. I wanted to clarify some things, though. The media came out there and said, oh, they did it. The agent told Carlton to. Couldn't be anything further from the realms of reality, because an agent telling the club, it's no bearing. I think what you've more likely seen here is Carlton are getting a 4th or a 5th, which is probably about his value. The guy's played less than 20 games in 3 years. So I think Carlton have gone with their player first one, but also it gives Fremantle and Brisbane the option, should Jack agree to it, to take a more lenient approach with his contract, potentially rookie him. If he goes through the PSD, he'll go on the senior list maybe, but they can structure his deal so it's more of a pay-as-you-play as opposed to match my thing. So I actually feel I liked it, but you actually see this quite a lot in the AFL. Carlton fans have, I think, got a bit upset about it, but this is probably fairer to the player because while there's a trade needing to be done, it could cost Jackie's career, couldn't it?
Could. I mean, like, there's no... Simply put, there's also no value in it from a Blues perspective to trade, right? So the picks available, Fremantle, you're looking at pick 63. Brisbane, you're looking at pick 69. They're going to get pushed out. Those picks actually aren't going to have any draft value. I mean, I know they get pushed out, maybe come back. You might get 100 points worth of bidding. And to wait that long, to have to drag through the draft, the trading, Jack's unhappy. The club's not particularly happy. Just to get a chance at some points that you're actually not going to use and you don't need. This is actually a cleaner process, and they've probably done Jack a bit of a favor. If you read the article, it almost felt like he actually copped a bit of a stray as well on the way through from Nick Austin. It very specifically talked about how hard the other players had worked to work on their fitness and done everything possible to get back on the park. And then there was a separate line about Jack Martin. So I think it's just like player first, keep him happy, keep the manager happy, but also they're not actually going to get anything in a trade for him. So why worry about it? Why waste time?
It's funny as well. We have seen cases where players have been forced to be traded like this. And Elijah Hollands is a good example. A straightforward trade that dragged on and on and on and on, and then almost looked off for a while. Where I think this way, Jack can prepare. We don't have to fucking worry about it. And let's be honest, like Lex says, in this draft or next year's draft, a 4th rounder, he's going to do sweet nth of fuck all. Carlton have got the picks for Ben Camporelli. When people ask about Ben Camporelli, people are saying, why is he sliding? He's one of the few Sandful guys who hasn't played a senior game, which says a lot because there's a lot of players in this draft who have played it. So I think it's a fascinating case. Carlton have got the points. A 4th isn't going to do anything. And I think it pays you back. Like, the one thing I'll say about the Chera, as much as I hated it, I guarantee we got Acres so cheap because we didn't fuck about haggling for Chera. Like, we could have been a dickhead, but we didn't be a dickhead. So it's interesting, and it leads me on to part 2. Few of you are asking about it. We've just discussed don't buy ready-made stars. Dan Houston, right? Let Dog, you're a manic Carlton fan. They asking prices 2 firsts, which I think is probably about fair. In reality, you'll probably get something back for 2 firsts. You'll probably get 2 firsts and a second back, future second or something like that. Lek and chat, where do you stand?
Well, when that news started, I think my first message to you was, if we trade for Dan Houston, I'm not watching football anymore. So I think that gives a pretty strong stance in my position as a Carlton fan. I think bringing in Dan Houston, the only caveat to this would be if we pay 2 firsts, something comes back, and they pay all of his salary or majority of his salary. In that instance, I would potentially do the deal. But the opportunity cost of bringing in a Dan Houston when you've got Jacob Weeding, who I believe has actually signed a contract extension, hasn't been announced yet, and TDK out of contract and 11 other players out of contract next year would be ridiculous, in my opinion. And also, it's, as we talked about, if I'm trying to complete my team and trading away a first or 2 firsts, a halfbacker with a good kick in a system that doesn't utilize that skill isn't where I'm spending my trade chips. Like, we could use Sard and Newman. We can find a discarded halfback player. We could draft one with a decent kick. We've probably got them in Cowan and potentially the name escapes me, Billy Wilson. Like, we might already have that player. I just wouldn't entertain it, Pom. The only instance I would is if we're essentially not paying his salary. That's the only way I would do it.
I've been quite upfront about it. I'm proud, chat. A lot of you are starting to come round, and you're on Team Pom. For me, I couldn't. Look, I am the number 1 advocate of halfback flankers in the league, right? I fucking love them. They turn me on, and you know what? He turns me on. But I couldn't think of a fucking worse decision. And I will go as far as this. If Carlton bring him in, right, and they don't finish top 4 next year, they will lose TDK, right? And then I'll go a step further. That happens, well done for going into a rebuild with Tasmania coming in, because heed my words throughout the draft. 3 drafts to go, 2 drafts to go now. If you're not out of the rebuild situation and they come in, 5-6 years of mediocrity. So I don't see, for me, there is no benefits. And if you say he's a good kick, you also told me Adam Chera was a world-class star and he was going to make our midfield better. And statistically, it hasn't got dramatically better. That age doesn't attest to. So for me, I can't think of anything worse. 2 first-rounders, 800K on the salary. Clown mentality. If Carlton do it without getting what Let Dog says, a salary cap dump, where they say, we'll pay 600, future first, right, we'll give you it's only 1 first. Let's say a future first. I ain't doing it. For me, it is against everything we've been building. And at this stage now, I think we've got too many tier 1 players and not enough role players. In my opinion, just draft a small forward, draft your point of difference in this, get ahead of the Camparellis. And then next year, great comment as well. I'm glad you've been watching the videos. You are an icon, my friend. 15 players out of contract next year. That is 17. Yeah, Zong, I'm glad you've been watching, mate. That tells me that's list management 101, that Austin knows where this list is next year to go hard on either topping up, getting rid of players to bring others in. I'm really content where the list is.
Me too. And if you do think that the halfback is a position of weakness for you, mate, I'd rather And these aren't good players. I'd rather you spend 100K on recently delisted Nick Hind, or send a future fourth to West Coast for Alex Witherden, who doesn't have a defensive bone in his body, but has had seasons where his kicking has been utilised up at Brisbane as a sort of spare defender. Like, I'd rather we look at a Nick Newman-esque zero-cost player than Dan Houston, if you think that's a position I need, which I actually don't think it is with the players on our list.
You know what? I think Koken nails it. You know what? I call me stupid, but I am super confident in Zach Williams. All right. New guy in, Rob Innes. Like, to me, this is why and we're going to go on to the next thing. I am a little bit against. I said it last year and everyone came at me. I was with Terry and I said, if Mathew Owens, I found the video, it's a work of art. I said, if Mathew Owens is your best small forward, you're not a top 4 side, you're a borderline top 8 side. And I was like, no disrespect to him, but he is like bang average. Like, he just does the average things well. He doesn't make his own goals. I look at Zach and them 2 games he played when he was fully fit, he tore games up and he made goals out of nothing. And we haven't had a player like that since Eddie Betts. Keep him fit. I wouldn't mind getting this guy on your screen now, Malcolm Rosas Jr., because I feel like Carlton's issue is all of our small forwards are defensive-minded, either by design or by naturality, Fogarty. I think Malcolm Rosas is going to be next to nothing. And I think this guy here, if you watch him play, I was hot on him in his draft. It was one of my rookie selections when we did the Blue Abroad guys to look out for, because I didn't think with their list makeup they would use an NGA player, right? I think Malcolm Rosas may be worth a punt, and I've got a feeling he might be that player who might be the superstar. You know, that's been missed in the right situation.
Yeah, look, I think Malcolm Rosas Jr. is solid, and generally, the way you can tell if I like a player is I recently traded for him in a dynasty league in fantasy because he was essentially free, so I traded him in. His start to the season, I've just pulled it up. So round 0, career high 3 goals, 2 goals round 1, 2 goals round 4. He kicked a goal in round 5 as sub. Round 18, he finally came back from injury, 2 goals, and then he was subbed off in round 21. So if you can get him on the park, like, he can generate goals, and he doesn't generate goals in the way Matt always does. You and I have spoken about him at length. Matt always leads and plays as a tall forward. He just happens to be 4'6". Malcolm Rosas is a more natural footballer, and that's not any issue with Matt Owens. He didn't come to the sport until, you know, he'd already become a essentially semi-professional basketballer. And then the other side of that is what you talked about with Williams. He is, again, a natural footballer, and I think we've probably lacked that in front of goals, largely due to unavailability, which is what started this discussion.
Well, I mean, this is an interesting one as well, because Gold Coast did the unprecedented thing yesterday afternoon of actually releasing him from his contract early. So they've taken the knock on the contract, right? So they've bought him out early, which is very unprecedented to do. So they've agreed a mutual fee to sack him, effectively. The reason being that they want him not to stand in his way. So it's been quite open. It's not because he's shit. They want to get rid of him and get him in the market quickly. And they said that they didn't want much for him in a trade. So Carlton could rookie this guy as well, should he want to be, which really does help Carlton, because that's probably where we're going to have a rookie spot available. I agree with what the chat are saying as well. For me, I'm a big advocate of small forwards kick goals, right? And I think at times we get a little bit too peculiar with him. This would be one, though, I will put with a caveat. I need Zach Williams to be the leader, I need him to be a leader because I've got a feeling here this could be a Tyson Stengel. You get his head right, because when people ask why he hasn't played a games, this guy is a walking suspension, right? And I like suspensions, but there's been a couple of late bumps. There was the sling tackle in the VFL, which was fucking needless as well, because the halfbacker had kicked the ball about 20 minutes ago. But he's quick, he's canny, he kicks both sides, he's got them pocket goals. This is really one of them. I think this is Stengel 2.0. I loved him in his draft. If he can get his head right, this kid could be brilliant.
Yep. I don't disagree. I think it's how you kick your goals as well as a small forward. As silly as that is to say, Matt Owi's goals aren't from the actions of a small forward. I actually would have no issue with Matt Owi still being in our team, but he leads as if he's a tall forward. He gets goals over the top. He doesn't score a lot of goals, creating them himself live in play. That's what I'm after. It's what Zach Williams can do. It's what I'm after in the small forwards I'm targeting. I don't mind if Matt Owi stays. Even if he does, I know list spots are an issue. I'd still be looking for someone like this to come into the team.
Well, Blues fans ask what it is. I mean, for me, I'd be happy to sell Owies. I think you'll get decent value for him now. And I'm going to make a big call. Whichever club Matty Owies goes to, he won't kick 30 goals again. You can clip that.
No, I don't.
He won't kick 30 goals again. But if we can get, I'd say my dream would be Luke Traynor, Joe Berry, Nick Haynes, and if you can get Ben Camporelli and rookie Lucas, I'll touch myself. But if we can't get Joe Berry, I wouldn't mind Malcolm Rosas. But I feel like this guy here, he's just got something. This is one of them ones where you look at all the top small forwards, they were drafted for fuck all. And I feel like Rosas could be that guy. And I agree with Gav. I think get Zach Williams fit. He's got the natural ability. And if he can guide Malcolm in this hard world and get his head straight and he can curb that aggression, fuck me, he could be one hell of a footballer.
Agree.
Right? And the final topic is these guys. Dustin Martin. It's not often I look at the AFL world and the media and go, fucking hell, you guys are right. But Dustin Martin was going to be retired and everyone said it was a scam. Now, obviously, there is a little bit of a funny loophole here because he was an unrestricted free agent before retiring. The AFL have confirmed that they will be honouring his status as if he never retired. And it appears that the lodgement of retirement hasn't actually gone through. Very, very funny. Now, my argument is here. Do we not think that Richmond should be forced to trade him? Because we had a very similar issue when Mr. Liam Jones retired, but then didn't retire because of COVID. Do you not feel like this is a grey area? Because I feel like Dimmer's been planning this for a while, and okay, he didn't have to retire, is my argument. I feel like that retirement and then the double back, I'd like to see Gold Coast be forced now to have to trade for him.
I don't. And I mean, and it's simple because in the AFL rules, which I just pulled up, they haven't, essentially it's a paperwork thing. They haven't lodged the retirement payment. So he actually hasn't retired. So if we remember back to Luke Hodge, he retired, backflip, said, actually, I'm going to go to Brisbane. And they did have to trade for him. And that's because he didn't qualify for free agency. It was a nothing pick. They did have to execute it. In this instance, he's a free agent. Technically, he's not actually retired because it hasn't been processed. He's still a contracted Richmond player. He enters free agency on October 1 or whenever the free agency period officially starts. He's allowed to move for free. I think on two folds, yeah, it's a little bit dodgy from Gold Coast. Maybe they're getting one back for when Hugh Greenwood left them after promising he was going to, oh, no, delist me. I promise I won't go anywhere. And then he left. The flip side, which I've only literally just thought of, Pom, is that maybe it was Dusty in his mind doing the right thing for Richmond fans, and that is giving them the send-off, giving them the thank you, doing all that tour. It's a lot hard to... I imagine it'd be a lot... it'd seem less genuine if we already knew he was moving, so maybe he just wanted to do right for the club. The other thing is, I don't think he's going to be particularly effective for Gold Coast on the field, to be honest with you. I mean, he struggled this year.
You know what? Call me stupid, and this might bite me in the ass, but some of my pre-season calls are pretty fucking good. I'm going to have a big call here. I reckon Dusty has a day out next year. I reckon they forward pocket him and he takes the piss. Like, I reckon it's 1 year, but I think he might just revive his career for a year.
40-goal season, forward pocket.
Yeah. My issue with Dustin Martin doing this is just he was an unrestricted free agent. So, like, he could have nominated round 14. Look, and said, look, fucking love the black and gold. I love you all. Man, it's been the pleasure of my life. I want to go out there. I want to go to Gold Coast. And you could have worded it, that ridiculous way of, it's time for the next generation. I love you. I'm going to go to Gold Coast and help them out. And do you know what I mean? And nothing happened. But the fact he's retired, he's had that pomp and circumstance. He's effectively said to other clubs, don't talk to me, because I think if I was like at North Melbourne or Eagles, this is a guy I'd be looking at as an uncontracted free agent and going, come for a year, culture build. Like, but effectively that's probably put them off because he's retired. Everyone knew he was going to Gold Coast. So, like, to me, this is where we get to that area of cloak and dagger shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even think Richmond would stand his way. Like, Ben's saying a second round pick. I don't think they would. I think it would be like a fourth rounder. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It would be a fourth round.
They don't have to trade him. But yeah. To your point, Pop, I get it.
Because he's retired, it should be reneged. And it should be like, look, we're going to have a mutual deal.
The AFL just, I don't think, is mature properly in the player movement thing. Players announcing before. Like, Alex Neil-Bullen announcing he was going to get traded before the end of the season is the first time I can remember that happening. Like, it just, for whatever reason, doesn't happen in the AFL. We got to pretend, even when we know a player is going to leave, that he's not going to leave. It's the one, like, they've never quite nailed player movement properly. They've never properly nailed free agency, and they've never properly nailed the communication around it. They've just kind of fucked it. Whereas in the NRL, a year out if your player's leaving. In other sports, ages ahead of time if they're going to leave.
Well, you remember me having that conversation with you, like, by about round 12, Ben Brown had signed for Melbourne. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And, like, there was no talk of it until, like, the second week of trade period. And I'm like, it's been fucking on the cards for months, boys. Like, I agree with you. Like, spot on. It should be a little bit more mature. Like, because who would have been upset? Like, I'm telling you now, if you're a Richmond fan and he said he wanted to Gold Coast, you're a dickhead if you'd be upset because he's gifted you 3 flags. He's a fucking legend, right? Yeah. I don't begrudge him going to earn a bit of coin with Daddy Hip Dimmer, his boy, the man who gave him a career. But I just feel like, to me, it left a sour taste in my mouth that everyone knew it was happening. Everyone knew it was going on. Just be a man and just say, look, I want to go and spend my last 2 years with Hardy. And I don't think anyone would have cared. I think we would have all... I clapped Dusty, when he had that parade, from my house. I got up and clapped because he's fucking a brilliant player. I wouldn't have been upset, though.
No.
I would have been angry.
And that's the thing. That's why I think it's still immature, the AFL in the player movement sense, is because you're right. No one would have given a shit. So, and then we were talking before the show. Liam Jones is an example. It's slightly different. I think the difference there is, right, he retired and then Bulldogs had to trade him to us. slightly different because the AFL essentially forced him to retire, right? The AFL said, well, if you're not getting an injection, mate, then you can't play. And that had its own, obviously, with the, as we look back on it, had its own set of complications and issues around it. It probably long-term, though, forced Carlton to try and fix their defensive setup, which probably was a good thing in the end.
But, hey, mate. No, I agree. I mean, I look at it this way. Just chat. There's a few Carlton fans in. Let's just say, to prove a point, Patrick Cripps, let's just say Patrick Cripps wins 3 flags by 2027. 2029, he retires. We all clap. Season ends, out of retirement, he goes to West Coast Eagles. How would you... Because I would feel a little bit... I wouldn't be angry. He'd still be a legend, but I'd feel a little bit betrayed that he didn't trust me and the fan base by saying, look, I've loved my time here. I'm Carlton through and through. I want to have 2 years, though, back home. No one would have cared. Like, I'm telling you, if you're a Richmond fan and you would have cried about it, I would have gone down there and slapped you all. It's a fucking legend. But treat the fans with a bit of respect. Like, just say... No,
I'm with you. Let's just be honest. Yeah. There's no competitive advantage to this. Like, the only thing I could think... Like, but it could be... He's an unrestricted free agent, so he gets to choose where he goes. So it's not even like... If he told everyone he wanted to keep playing, but not at Richmond, all of a sudden Geelong comes in and goes, Dusty, come here. Don't go to Gold Coast. He gets to choose. So, like, you're right. To me, it's more of a communication and trust issue in terms of where the AFL's at in their player movement period, which it should be further along because we've had free agency for 15 years now, something like that. It's ridiculous that we still have these sort of things pop up, but they do, and rightly, as people have pointed out, that Levi Casbolt did do this to Carlton, and I don't even think anyone noticed. So
I did because I was team no Casbolt, but. Yeah. I mean, look, like I said, if Cripps did it, I'd rather him be honest, right? I'd like Gibbs, spot on. Gibbs was the worst kept secret. He tried to get out of here for 3 years, right? You know what I mean? Like I just wished players would be comfortable because I felt that would have still been beautiful if I was a Richmond fan. And I look at it if it was Cripps. If Cripps said, look, cheers, guys. I've done the flag. I've done my job. Now I want to go home. I've been offered a culture building job and 2 years playing at Eagles. I'd be like, you know what? He's a fucking legend. You go home, mate. You enjoy it. Thanks very much. Love you. You're still my favourite. I would have felt a little bit peeved, though, if he felt like, no, I'm retiring. Oh, by the way, I'm off to Eagles. Like, just say it because... Yeah. Do you know what I mean? What's going to happen? No one cares. Like, I'll be honest, no one cares. I care because that's why I'm saying they should change the rule. You're no longer an unrestricted free agent because now they've got to re-register you. So now there's got to be a trade facilitated. Because I just think it's a dodgy way to do it.
Yeah, like, I don't think they should have to trade for him, but I think we should all just fucking grow up and, like, just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Gav, who cares? Like, Gav, who cares? Like, Dusty could have just texted, fuck you, I'm out, Gold Coast Suns, woo! And I'd be like, all right, sweet as, mate, I'm with you, bro. But
the only element maybe that I don't want to harp on this any longer, but the AFL still has that weird thing where you got to pretend you're not talking to other clubs about leaving your club, even though
they do.
Free agency deals are done a year out and trades are done a year out. You've still got to pretend like at October 1 midnight is when you're allowed to start talking about free agency. So the only thing I can think is the AFL doesn't want to admit officially that happens, even though on their own platforms they constantly report on it and talk about it.
No, it's crazy. But But I've got something very special to announce. So before I do that, like, what are you doing for the rest of the week, my friend?
That's a great question. I don't have much on. I'm hesitant to say it out loud, but I believe I will be posting a video probably towards the end of the week. So I'm not promising that, but that is the plan. And I've got a few other little things that is cooking in the background, but nothing worth revealing yet.
I love it when Let Dog is. I'm no doubt we'll get you this week as well. We'll do something else, won't we?
I'll be around, yeah.
But I'm here to announce we finally have merch. We have a website. It's all up and running. These are the kind of look at the excellent things like you can get. We've got bottle caps, we've got umpires, we've got backpacks, we've got these snazzy numbers, we've got memorabilia. We've got jogging pants. Look, we've got the full shebang, right?
Go back. What's that hat? That's a very like 90s rapper hat. Can
I just say, Let Dog actually has a care package, and I'm glad you've pointed that out because I thought of you when I made this.
The bucket hat is very, very elite.
Yeah. So you've got this. There's going to be loads of stuff. We're going to be doing limited edition merch. You've got some shoes as well. Look, these shoes are schmick.
Well, hey.
Look, these are schmick. But all this
candles. We can smell pom.
Hey, yeah, you can. You can. All this stuff is really top quality as well. I can't say it. I've got it. The company that's looking after us, absolutely brilliant clobber. Loads of stuff there. So if you head on over there, you can place an order. Stay tuned because if you are a member, you will be getting a members code in part of your members package, so you'll get some good. But it's all reasonably priced as well. I've tried to keep it responsible. Loads of limited edition stuff is going to go up there as well. And you've asked for bobbleheads. Mrs. Pom has got a prototype Pom bobblehead, and there will be an option to pre-order a Pom in Oz pop vinyl. So,
see, Tommy, if you ever start underperforming, I'm gonna fucking go off on Blue Abroad about how you were focusing more on fucking bobbleheads. Focus on the videos, Pom. I want to see it on the screen. I'm gonna have to absolutely come at you, so you can't ever let that quality dip.
And like, Dog, that's fair. That do you know what I mean? Now Pom's got merch. Come at me if my standards drop, right? Do you know what I mean? Come at me. I will fucking take it. I will take it. But there you are. But yeah, if you want to go and support me, absolutely no obligation. Colin becomes a member. I love you, my friend. Honestly. Hey, yeah, take it. Let Dog. Pom and Let Dog. Bobbleheads.
Oh, yeah. We'll wheel that out next time we've got some sort of controversy or, you know, our live stream's been smashed by 100 to 1 on some other spud talking about trades.
But yeah, there is some really good stuff. Check out that I Want Curly Hair as well, because that is probably the best thing on there. But like I say, throughout the season, we'll be adding limited edition. We're going to do a giveaway in the off season as well, where we'll do a care package. But I'm going to sort the content creators out. Everyone who's appeared on the show will get a Pom in Oz care package. So I've sorted like a bucket out, so we'll get to see him model it. But everyone, thank you very much. Tomorrow we have got, what have we got tomorrow? It's Monday. I did a video. Oh, I did the first round draft with a load of fantasy trades. Like, I have gone fantasy trade crazy tomorrow, so that should be good. And then we've got, where are we up to? It's Collingwood, Essendon, and Fremantle is coming in. So
bloody beautiful.
That should be quite good. So we will see you Monday. Let Dog will probably be back next week to do another one of these shows. But thank you very much, everyone. See you next time. Bye.